and he came back, and I know he's doing well. He's just that type of person. But he said, well, I just wanted to let you know that on this category, he kind of came in 3rd out of 5, and this one, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, it's a good time to be coming out as a physical therapist.
All right, welcome back to the Talk Midland podcast. My name is Logan Richetti with Modern Realty. Today I have my buddy Craig Elford from Active Orthopedics Physical Therapy. Mm-hmm. And I am a client of yours, as you know.
Yeah.
I have a couple bulge discs in the back there, and I've been working with one of your guys, Logan, to straighten me out. And I've had a really wonderful experience in your physical therapy office, and I'd like to talk more about that and the business behind it.
Great. I'd love to hear your experiences too.
Well, I got in there after a referral from my back doctor. He sent me straight over to you guys, and he said, go to this place and do what they say and don't complain, and get in there. So I scheduled 3 days a week of physical therapy for 10 weeks, and we did a lot of basic core strengthening exercises and some stretching and also some work with whatever you call it, the things that tingle. Get you,
electrical stim.
Stimulation, thank you. And then cold, obviously, ice pack and things like that. But it's an interesting experience going into a physical therapy environment, especially I've been there since high school because I got a terrible body that I've been beat up for years. But walk us through the typical first-time patient that you have when they come in, they have something wrong with their back or their knee or whatever it is. What's the experience like?
Well, at Active Orthopedics, the experience that I want to get people to feel is, one, obviously welcoming. Most of the time, people, if they've never been through that before, they don't know really what to expect. They're in pain. The doctor tells them to do this and that, and sometimes they just don't know why. So I think it all starts with communicating what to expect out of us, and then in turn, what do we expect out of them to get the best outcomes possible. And oftentimes, when they start physical therapy, even places where people have gone other places, if there's not a lot of good communication, they don't know what to expect. Sometimes they just kind of fall off the schedule and they never get better, and they just assume physical therapy doesn't work. So for anybody that comes to our clinic, we really, really try, even from the first point of contact, just to communicate what the expectations are, how we're going to help them to achieve their goals. And so, when somebody gets scheduled, obviously, we get them all the information that they need. They participate with the evaluation by the physical therapist. And then we obviously spend a lot of time at the conclusion of that to say, all right, these are the factors that we identify that are clearly contributing to your symptoms. These are the things that we can do to help you achieve your goals. These are the things that you can do to help you achieve your goals. And one of those is participating, doing exercises. And you just mentioned before in another conversation that even simple things like diet and sleep and some of those basic things that they don't maybe not even recognize how much of an influence that has, those are things that they can help as well. So I think that for a new person coming to physical therapy, the more that we can educate them on the process and what it's going to look like, what it's going to entail, how long it might take, and other factors along the way, I think the more that they're informed, the better the success rate is going to be.
Well, that was my experience there for sure. When the first time I came in, it was also with Logan, and he spent a lot of time diagnosing what was wrong with me, what hurt, what was difficult to do, what my objectives for therapy were.
Right.
And he started me off gentle and light, and then he kind of built on from there as I got a little bit stronger. And I was really impressed by his genuine concern for how I was doing. Mm-hmm. And I really felt like I had a partner in recovering from this injury that was meaningful to me as a patient, which is nice, because when you're going through any kind of physical therapy treatment, you often get discouraged. You often feel like you're on your own. And,
right.
And frankly, going to physical therapy in the middle of a work day is a sacrifice of time.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Just like going to the gym, Nobody wants to do that. But I found myself encouraged every time I walked in. It's a very inviting environment. You have there's a big open space in the middle of the room. You have some closed off private rooms, and you also have some semi-public tables with sheets so you can have some privacy. Yeah. But everything is kind of built out on the edges, on the perimeter, and then there's some open space in the middle to do stretching and plyo work and things like that.
Yeah.
I assume that you have it laid out that way strategically. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and so I'm happy to hear that Logan's doing exactly what we expect, and what we expect is that if we're going to spend time and you're going to take time out of your day to come to physical therapy, nobody wants to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap, it's costly, it's time consuming. And so when we evaluate, we want to make sure that you're clear on these are the things that we identify, that, and you have a complete buy-in and you understand that, all right, there's a solution out here and we're offering you a solution. How do we work together to get the buy-in so that you can get and achieve your goals? And so the fact that we really strive to try to find out what is your goal? How does this pain or this dysfunction, how does it affect you in your daily life? And what can't you do that we can help you accomplish? So just like any other sale, right? We're not really think of ourselves as salespeople, but we have a solution that we think we can help you achieve your problem or whatever your goal is. And the more buy-in, like you said, you found yourself participating more, feeling, all right, this is, and sometimes people will get discouraged thinking, I just don't know that I'm getting better. And those times when the therapist, if we communicate effectively, we can show you, say, all right, here's where we started. Here's what you can accomplish now. Here, and you may not say, well, I can't achieve my goal. Well, you may not be thinking the same way that the therapist is in terms of how the body heals or how it recovers. And if we can educate along the way as well, people tend to stay focused. They recognize that their goal is in sight, and then over time they get more and more encouraged. And once they hit their goals, then it's just a win-win for everybody. So, but to your point, as far as the way that we set up the clinic, absolutely. And most people, when we ask them in review, how did we do? What did you think? The first comment is that the environment is open, and that when I walk in there, I feel like I'm greeted. I know what's expected of me, and I get to work. I don't spend a ton of time sitting around waiting. And then I know what I'm going to be participating in. You can see how that they feel comfortable with the people around them. I referenced it to someone recently that that they're younger, they might not understand it, but like Cheers, the TV show Cheers, when Norm would walk in, right? Everybody knows Norm, and so when people walk into our clinic, we like that friendly and open and inviting atmosphere where someone walks in, all the clinicians and even a lot of the patients, because they get to know each other, going through some of their struggles together, it's just open and inviting. And that's the way that we want it. I think it's a good experience that way.
When I went in there, I got a prescription from my back doctor, and it was covered by insurance with a copay.
Yeah.
Is that typically how it works, or do a lot of people have to pay out of pocket, or how does that work?
Well, this day and age, deductibles getting higher and higher. So depending upon your plan, but yeah, in most cases, it's that. Some people may have a high deductible plan where they have to hit the deductible before their therapies are covered. Some people have a copay, others co-insurance, and so on. And some people, we do have a cash option. Physical therapists do have direct access capabilities where we can see people without a prescription. But in most cases, the insurance companies have dictated that if you want physical therapy to be covered, you're going to need to get a prescription from your physician. So that's standard.
And that's where most of your business comes from, referrals from doctors?
Well, I would say that when I started back in the early 2007 range, we did get a lot of referrals from doctors, but I had a reputation. I would say that 50% of our business, if not more, is just repeat patients, family and friends, and reputation.
Interesting.
People which is for a private practice physical therapy clinic, we just have to rely on that, because there aren't big hospital systems in our community that are I don't have 200 doctors that I'm paying to send me patients. And so I have to be better, and our therapists have to be better. And so to do that, I think that giving them the experience from start to finish, educating them and reminding them these are our objectives and this is how we get there together, they buy into that and they develop a relationship with us. And those relationships, repeat patients, family, friends, that's how we've built our practice. And that's why we continue to thrive.
When did you open the practice?
2007.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've been rocking and rolling for a while.
We had some up and downs along the way, but back, I was just thinking about this the other day, back in 2007, for some people might recognize me or might know me from, it seems like a different age, but in 2003, I started the Mid-Michigan Multi-Sport Racing Club, a triathlon club.
Cool.
And in 2007, the same week that I started Active Orthopedics, I started hosting and organizing the Sanford and Son Triathlon. And so that was some busy times back then. But back then, before kids, where we're getting bigger and busier, I had a lot of more time, and I was doing a lot more triathlon and stuff. And I recognized that runners, triathletes, cyclists, they're all injured all the time. And so if I could associate myself with the athletic community, which I enjoyed, obviously, that I was going to have a pretty full schedule because they're always injured, right? They always have some injury. They just kind of nagging injuries that just keep going. But so that's kind of how I built my practice, was working with the athletic population in the community. And then it just grew and grew. And then over the years, we've been really, really lucky and really successful with the support of physicians as well, as they get to know in patient outcomes, patient satisfaction. It's just really helped us.
And how many therapists do you have working there?
Currently, we have 4 full-time clinicians. We have 4 full-time and we have 2 part-time. I would say that before COVID, there was a point where we had 6 full-time PTs. And we also had a clinic in Freeland, which it really didn't survive COVID. A lot of things changed. And so we haven't been able to really find the staff that we need to do the things the way that we insist on doing them. And so I'm thrilled with the staff that we do have right now. And in 2025, I'm really focused on growing the practice. I don't care about growing 1 million different locations, but I want to be able to serve as many people in our community as possible. I think that the product that we offer and that we deliver is a better product than other people are getting. If we can help more people, great. That's what I want to do.
What makes it better or different?
I think the relationship. and the time that we spend with people. I was asked that by some consultants just recently. What's your strategic advantage? What's different? And I think that I would poll patients and ask them, and every one of them would say the environment when you walk in is open, it's inviting, and the relationships that I develop with my therapist, who I believe understands my problems, has a solution that's available to me, and reinforces what I need to do and holds me accountable. So I think that's a good recipe. That's what we've been doing.
I would agree with that. As a former patient, I would certainly agree with that. One of the things I enjoy about your clinic is that every day there's a new little joke on the wall. Who's in charge of the joke?
We have a young, a real bright co-op from the Sanford area, and so we've been using. I'm just a big fan of dad jokes.
Yeah, I can tell.
so we like to have. And if you look in our rooms, we name our rooms individually. We got a pain room, a torture room, and an agony room, and so on. So we like nobody wants to be in physical therapy, but if we can make it fun and they can laugh a little bit and just be a part of the group, it tends to be more tolerable.
Another thing I noticed there, in addition to working directly with my my therapist, Logan, there were some support staff that were supporting the life cycle while I was in there as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember the guy's name, but he would help with setting up the table. Cody. Yeah. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
And I got to know him a little bit too. And he was kind of floating around and helping everybody. I don't know if he's learning or whatever, but it was certainly a team environment, small group, tight knit. They were always talking about the Lions and, the football and different things. And
we don't want to talk about that. But
maybe not right now. I don't want to talk about that right now, but I think that makes a huge difference. I've been through several physical therapy experiences in my lifetime. And I remember in high school, I had a knee problem and I went to therapy, and I remember I was 18 years old. I was a little less composed than I am today, but I got very upset with my therapist because he wasn't focused on my therapy enough.
No.
And I had some goals that were very important to me at the time. And I never felt that way in your practice. I always felt that they were pushing me, but they were managing how far and how fast they needed to push me, so it was safe. And every day I walked in there, the first thing he would ask me is, "How you doing? How you feeling? What's the difference between last time and this time?" And do you want to take the next step? And therapy takes a while. Bulge discs don't heal overnight. And really, I think what you're trying to do with a bulge disc scenario is you're trying to strengthen the muscles around it, at least to some extent, while it's healing, right?
Yeah.
And so that takes time.
Yep.
And it's very easy to quit therapy, because if you don't see instant results like everything else, you just want to quit. And so Logan did a great job of keeping me focused and keeping me coming back. Yeah. Your scheduling process was wonderful. When I first called to get in, it was really hard to get in because you have a lot of clients.
Sure.
But they were very flexible with my schedule and accommodating to try to make things happen. And another thing they did I thought that was nice was they kept me on a list of standby appointments. Yeah. So anytime somebody canceled, they would call me up and say, "Hey, we got a free appointment that opened up. Can you make it happen?" And And I ddid that on several occasions.
Great.
So the front desk was great. They didn't make me pay every day. Once a week or so, they
Okay.
tracked me down for my credit card. And, it was just such a unassuming and low friction experience top
Great.
to bottom. I feel like, I don't know if it's always like that, but I was a good,
I'm thrilled to hear that. That's what we strive for. Yeah.
So what are the constraints of this business? Now, obviously you deliver physical therapy. You have therapists that deliver that, just like realtors that deliver sales.
Yeah.
You need clients, and in our case, it's buyers and sellers. In your case, it's people that need therapy. What are the constraints of the business? What slows the business from growth?
I think I'm in the middle of it right now, but finding the right people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, we could probably find suitable people to do the job, or we could find the right people to do the job the way that we want it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so certainly over the past few years, if you're a physical therapist right now, particularly coming out of school, it's a good time because everybody needs them. The population's getting a little bit older. Sometimes in physical therapy with some of the trends in opioid addiction is it's just the go-to. We try that before we do these other things. So finding the right people slows us down. And then, I would say that that's probably one of the bigger ones.
Well, let me touch on that a little bit. You said opiate addiction leads to physical therapy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Because opioid addiction is so rampant, doctors, instead of giving you some Vicodin, they're going to say, why don't you try a round of physical therapy first?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So if you're addicted to some kind of pills
I guess I'm just saying there as a first line of treatment, rather than giving them somebody narcotics, they're going to say, no, try some physical therapy first.
Okay. I got it.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I got it wrong. Okay. So what you're saying is if you're injured, instead of just throw some medicine at it, go to physical therapy first.
Yeah.
Yes, I've noticed that as well. I noticed that in my experience as well, because I didn't necessarily want to have a big shot of cortisone or whatever.
Right.
In fact, I didn't want anything in my back if I didn't have to. But I've noticed in the last couple of experiences needing this, that physical therapy is the default recommendation.
That's
now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry if I said that wrong.
So if I'm a new physical therapist coming out of school, can I write my own ticket, or how is that a salary job, a commission job? How does that work? What are the mechanics of that kind of relationship?
In most big systems, from what I understand, I would think that it's more of an hourly position.
Okay.
But in my system as a private clinic, I set it up as salary.
Interesting.
Because somebody might need a little more time, and they may need a little less. So I think there's some wiggle room and some flexibility there. I want our therapist to do the extra.
Right.
And so that makes sense. So sometimes you got to stay a little bit extra, and sometimes you might get able to leave a little bit early versus something that says, I'm going to work 7 to 3:30. I'm going to take an hour for lunch. If the therapist in our clinic feels like you need a little bit more attention, and that means that you're not going to take as much time on lunch, or you're going to stay a little bit later, then we have no issue with that.
I noticed that as well. It was very punctual on the start and end times, but once in a while he would keep me a couple extra minutes if I wasn't done, and once in a while I had to wait a couple of minutes, which was fine.
Okay.
Not much, but when you're determining how to compensate an employee, salary versus hourly versus commission, those are different structures and they create different incentives.
Yeah.
And so a salary incentive is more stable, more consistent, and it allows the practitioner to really focus on the client rather than the clock.
I believe so.
Now, the downside of that, in my mind, as the business owner, is now you got to keep the schedule full because there's an arbitrage between salary and revenue. Right. And obviously, the revenue's got to exceed the salary. So that puts a lot of the pressure and the financial business risk on your shoulders.
Yes. Yes.
You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about.
Well,
because I have some salaried employees too, and I get it.
Yeah. So absolutely maintaining, and which is that's where if we can minimize cancels and make sure that the patients are understanding this is for your benefit and they participate, that minimizes the cancels, the downtime for our salaried positions goes down, so we're more productive and get more outcomes.
Sure. Now you said 4 full-time practitioners in there. How much room do you have for more? How many more could you handle?
I think we could handle 2 more.
Okay. Because there's a limit, obviously. There's only so many beds. There's only so much room, so many slots.
We would probably have to adjust the schedules a little bit so we're not all max capacity at the same time.
Right.
But I think that we could do it. I know that we did it before. It was pretty busy, but it's doable.
And when you're looking for new technicians or practitioners, where do you go? Do you put an ad in the paper, or how do you do that?
I'm pretty active with as a clinical mentor, and oftentimes we will get students from the universities around the Midwest and throughout Michigan. And so when we have a clinical intern, or they're going to participate with us for anywhere from 6 to 14 weeks.
Wow.
So that's a long interview process. And right away, well, not right away, but oftentimes you can tell, is this person have the same type of work ethic? Do they have the same values? And are they able to do the job in the way that we want it to be done? And so you'll recognize early on that, all right, this is a huge opportunity for me to mentor this person, with the opportunity that maybe they'll join us afterwards. But like you mentioned or asked before about, can the PTs write their ticket? In some ways, yeah. I had a student last year who was outstanding, and I really pursued him, and I really thought, boy, I made an extremely competitive offer. And he came back, and I know he's doing well. He's just that type of person. But he said, well, I just wanted to let you know that on this category, he kind of came in 3rd out of 5, and in this one, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, it's a good time to be coming out as a physical therapist, and yeah, I would say that.
Well, that's tough. I mean, every business has either a supply or a demand constraint.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have a demand constraint. I think you have plenty of demand. I know that because when I tried to sign up, you were very busy.
Huh.
Not that you couldn't be more busy, but delivering the service and attracting and retaining the talent that does the delivery of the service is a major, major, uphill battle for most businesses. Real estate sales is no different. We have to find and recruit and train and retain enough realtors to deliver that service.
Yeah.
And that's constantly a struggle. We're in the process right now of hiring 5 new agents this year, which is cool.
Wow.
And we kind of go through waves. We don't do that systematically, but we kind of go through waves of when new people are coming in, and a lot of it's just coincidence, but we try to group them together so we can train them together.
Okay.
And so we can get a little bit of scale and efficiency with the training process, because as you know, training a new employee or a new realtor or whatever, a new practitioner, takes a great deal of effort.
Yes.
What is your training process for a new practitioner?
Well, luckily, I would say that, I'm just thinking back, I would say that probably 85 to 95% of all clinicians that I've ever hired were students of mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you train them while they're students.
Yeah, and I know right away. Yeah, this is a good one. I want this person, and I'm going to pour into them, whatever little tidbits that I can do, and then with that information, they can build their practice and their knowledge base, and then if they join me, then so we can continue on that path. So we've been lucky in that regard. That's where I found the vast majority of the people that work for me.
So when a new practitioner brings in a new client and starts on day one, they do an evaluation and they set up some kind of a program. Now, is that a prescriptive, repeated program based on the injury, or is it a case-by-case, custom-tailored set of moves and exercises? How does that work?
Well, that's what we would call a plan of care.
Yes.
So if you're thinking in sales, what physical therapists sell, we sell plans of care.
Yes.
And those plans of care are individualized based upon, these are the unique factors that we identify that contribute to your symptom and your condition. And these are the things that are going to change with normal aging, with repetitive injury, and so on. And these are the ways that we can address it. And then we sit with you and we put together, this is the plan of care that I propose. To best manage this from our experience and from research, this is what has to happen. And this is how we're going to accomplish that together. So that should be a basic part of every evaluation, where we just say, this is what we identify, this is what we can do, this is how we can do it together.
Okay, so if I walk in there tomorrow and I re-injure my back, and I come to you with an MRI and a prescription from my back doctor, and my L4, L5, L2, L3 vertebrae are bulged, or whatever you call them, herniated.
Yeah.
What's that going to look like for our first conversation? How are you gonna check me out?
Well, I guess first and foremost, you've got some bad discs in the lumbar region. My number one concern is, what's the neurologic status? Are there nerves that is there a motor deficit? Is there a sensory deficit? How are you moving? Can you alleviate your pain? So just to get a generalized, what's the sensitivity of those tissues? And we know that those tissues take a while to recover and we know that when they're inflamed, that other tissues adjacent to them, like nerve roots and muscle, tend to be inflamed and inhibited. So the first thing is we're going to find out how severely is the neurologic status. what can we do to alleviate some of your symptoms to allow healing to occur, to get some blood to those tissues, to get some swelling out of that area so that you can start to move better, so that your muscles are not inhibited by pain, so you can function better and you can put your socks on and you can go to work. And then once we recognize and educate you, and this is the normal healing process, this is the time frames that where we typically see these things recover in, and biologically this is how it improves. When you know what to expect and you start to live, or he told me that this is going to happen, then we work together and you can kind of progress along the way. Like you said it with Logan, where you've recognized that, all right, there was like a switch. We did a little bit more, and we just reassess. So I guess to get back to that, your question is how we would manage that would be based on your presentation. Every time that we see someone with disc problems in the lumbar spine, I was telling someone this morning, physical therapy is pretty easy. If it's too flexible, you stiffen it up or you strengthen it. If it's hypermobile, you strengthen it. If it's too stiff, well, then you loosen it, right? It's pretty darn easy. So in cases like, and another tidbit of our profession is in any area of our body, you can go and look. In the lumbar spine, for example, we see tons of people with lumbar spine pain, and you're no different, right? If you look where you have all this wear and tear, where the discs are basically ligaments. They hold two vertebral bodies together. And just like a ligament in your knee, if you sprain it, it becomes more flexible, loose, and that segment becomes more vulnerable to repeated injury until the point that it wears away and so on, right? So where you have areas of hypermobility or too much mobility, if you look one segment above and one segment below, or even regionally, you're typically going to find some hypomobility. So in the lumbar spine, if you look above and you look at the thoracic spine and you look below and you look at the hip girdle, in 90% of the cases, you're going to see somebody whose thoracic spine is limited, impaired, and it hasn't moved in a long time. Maybe they sit at a desk. And then just below there, you're going to see the hip girdle, which is made for mobility, but because they sit at a desk is restricted, they can't move. So you've got two areas that don't move that are supposed to be very mobile. And then you've got a lumbar area, which is made for stability to transmit forces between the lower and the upper body, which is made to move because of relative immobility above. Then you're gonna have a recipe. So we are always looking for opportunities to improve mobility through the entire system. So in the lumbar area, we really often focus on those beginner exercises just to get some of the muscles that have become inhibited by pain and by swelling. And so once they start to move and you can control those segments, we start really focusing on restoring mobility where you're lacking it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So if you look at the knee as well, you're often stuck between an ankle maybe that's got a little gunked up and the hip girdle. So the knee is kind of stuck in the middle. And oftentimes we see, all right, we got these ligament strains or this tendon pain at the knee. We're going to focus on other areas that are good opportunities to improve mobility through the whole system. So PT is pretty easy when you think of it that way. If it's stiff, you loosen it. If it's too loose, you stiffen it. And then look above and below and you're pretty good.
Simple.
Yeah.
What is the effect on sugar intake in your body on your inflammation of your injuries?
Yeah. Well, as far as the science behind it, I don't know all the details, but I can tell you anecdotally and from personal experience that it's an inflammatory item that we put in our body way too much.
Yeah.
And so I was telling you earlier that there's just a patient I just spoke with recently who said, hey, I just followed up to see how his back pain was resolving. He got good success, but he wasn't where he wanted to be. And so he went back to see his doctor. They changed some diet, considerably decreased his sugar intake, adjusted a couple statin medications, and now he says his pain is probably 90% gone. And anecdotally, personally, I can tell you that when I eat poorly, I feel it, right?
Yeah.
And if I sleep poorly and if I don't drink enough water, you just feel it. And so we know that stuff exists, but sometimes it's harder to push that stuff away than it is to just deal with the pain.
All right. If I have a physical therapy need, what's the best way to get connected to you guys?
The best way to get in touch with us, you can check out our website, which is Active Orthopedics, activeorthomidland.com, or you can call us at 989-832-9300. You can reach out to anyone at the office, or if you check us out on Facebook or any of those other social media platforms. That would be the best way.
Where's the address? Where's the location?
Oh, I'm sorry, 317 West Wackerly.
Okay, and last question is, if you are interested, if you're going through school and you're interested in possibly working with Active Orthopedics, they should reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, love that.
Craig, thanks for being on the Talk Midland podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, Logan. I appreciate it.